Lesson 7. Space Race Events. Important events in the space race. First animals in space. During the space race, both the United States and the Soviet Union sent animals into space to study the effects of space travel on living organisms. Here are some notable examples of the first animals sent into space by each country. United States. In 1947, the United States launched a V-2 rocket carrying fruit flies to study the effects of radiation at high altitudes. This marked the first successful launch of animals into space by the United States. The United States also conducted a series of missions involving monkeys to study the effects of space travel. Some examples include Albert 1. On June 11, 1948, a V-2 rocket carrying a rhesus monkey named Albert 1 reached an altitude of 63 miles, but he did not survive the flight. Albert 2. On June 14, 1949, a V-2 rocket carrying a rhesus monkey named Albert 2 reached an altitude of 83 miles and became the first monkey to reach space alive. However, Albert 2 died on impact during the parachute landing. Abel and Baker. On May 28, 1959, a Jupiter rocket carrying a rhesus monkey named Abel and a squirrel monkey named Baker was launched. They became the first monkeys to survive a space flight and return safely to Earth. Soviet Union. On November 3, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 2 carrying a dog named Laika. Laika became the first animal to orbit the Earth. Unfortunately, the technology to safely return animals from space had not yet been developed, and Laika did not survive the mission. On August 19, 1960, the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik 5 carrying two dogs named Belka and Strelka. This mission was the first to successfully return animals from space alive. Belka and Strelka completed a full orbit around the Earth and safely returned home. Their mission provided valuable data on the effects of space travel on living organisms. These early animal experiments provided valuable insights into the physiological and psychological effects of space travel on living organisms. They helped pave the way for human spaceflight and contributed to our understanding of the challenges and risks associated with space exploration. First lunar landing. The first unmanned lunar landing was achieved by the Soviet Union's Luna 2 spacecraft. Luna 2 was launched on September 12, 1959, and it successfully impacted the Moon's surface on September 13, 1959. This marked the first human-made object to reach the Moon. Luna 2 was a spherical spacecraft weighing around 390 kilograms. It was equipped with scientific instruments and a radio transmitter. The spacecraft's primary object was to study the Moon's surface and transmit data back to Earth. After a journey of approximately 36 hours, Luna 2 reached the Moon and impacted the surface of the Ocean of Storms at a speed of around 3,600 meters per second. The impact created a small crater and confirmed that the Moon's surface was solid. Luna 2 transmitted signals back to Earth until it impacted the Moon, providing valuable data about the Moon's environment and the spacecraft's trajectory. The successful mission of the Luna 2 paved the way for future lunar exploration and demonstrated the capability of reaching and landing on the Moon. It's important to know that the Luna 2 was the first successful unmanned lunar landing, but there were previous attempts by both the Soviet Union and the United States that were unsuccessful. The Luna 2 mission was a significant milestone in the exploration of the Moon and laid the foundation for future manned missions and the eventual Apollo lunar landings. First successful space rocket. The first space rocket to successfully launch was the Vostok 1, launched by the Soviet Union on April 12, 1961. The Vostok 1 was a spacecraft carrying the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, who became the first human to orbit the Earth. The rocket was used for the launch was the Vostok K, a modified version of the Vostok rocket. The Vostok 1 completed one orbit around the Earth, with Gagarin spending a total of 108 minutes in space before safely returning to Earth. This historic mission marked a major milestone in space exploration and the beginning of human space flight. Mission name Vostok 1. Launch date April 12, 1961. Cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Duration 1 hour and 48 minutes. Orbit. One orbit around the Earth. The Vostok 1 was a spherical spacecraft. It consisted of two main modules, the descendant module and the instrument module. The descendant module housed the cosmonaut and provided life support systems including oxygen supply, temperature control and communication equipment. It had a small window that allowed Gagarin to observe the Earth during the mission. The instrument module contained various instruments and systems for monitoring the spacecraft's performance, including orientation control, telemetry and tracking equipment. The Vostok K rocket, which launched the Vostok 1, was a modified version of the Vostok rocket. It had 3 stages and used a combination of liquid oxygen, kerosene as propellants. The rocket provided the necessary thrust to lift the Vostok 1 spacecraft into orbit. During the mission, Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit the Earth. He completed one orbit around the Earth, with the entire mission lasting approximately 1 hour and 48 minutes. Gagarin's experienced weightlessness and reported on his observations of the Earth's surface and the sensation of spaceflight. After completing the orbit, the descendant module re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and Gagarin ejected the spacecraft at an altitude of about 7 kilometers. He then parachuted to the ground and landed safely in the Saratov region of the Soviet Union. The success of the Vostok 1 mission was a major achievement for the Soviet Union and a significant milestone in human space exploration. It demonstrated the feasibility of manned spaceflight and paved the way for future missions that would expand our understanding of space and the capabilities of human space travel. First spacewalk. The first spacewalk, also known as the Extravehicular Activity (EVA), was conducted by Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov on March 18, 1965. During the Vostok 2 mission. Launch date March 18, 1965. Duration of the spacewalk 12 minutes and 9 seconds. During the Vostok 2 mission, the spacecraft carrying 2 cosmonauts, Pavel Belyaev and Alexei Leonov, on March 18, 1965. Leonov became the first person to exit a spacecraft and float freely in space. Leonov's spacewalk lasted for approximately 12 minutes and 9 seconds. He exited the Vostok 2 spacecraft through an inflatable airlock called the orbital module and floated in the vacuum of space connected to the spacecraft by a 5.35 meter tether. During the spacewalk, Leonov encountered several challenges. His spacesuit had inflated in the vacuum of space, making it difficult to re-enter the spacecraft. He had to manually release some of the suit's pressure to fit back through the airlock. Additionally, his spacesuit had overheated, causing him to sweat profusely and making it difficult to see through the visor. Despite these challenges, Leonov successfully re-entered the spacecraft and the Vostok 2 mission continued. The spacecraft completed 17 orbits around the Earth before returning to Earth on March 19, 1965. The first spacewalk by Alexei Leonov was a significant achievement in human space exploration. It demonstrated the feasibility of humans working outside their spacecraft in the harsh environment of space. Leonov's spacewalk paved the way for future EVAs and contributed to our understanding of the challenges and possibilities of human space exploration. First man orbit. The first successful mission to orbit the Moon was the Apollo 8 mission conducted by NASA. Its launch date was December 21st, 1968. Its duration was 6 days, 3 hours, 42 minutes and 42 seconds. It did 10 orbits around the Moon. The Apollo 8 mission was the second manned mission of the Apollo program and the first to leave Earth's orbit and travel to the Moon. The primary objective of the mission was to test the lunar module and the command and service module in the lunar orbit, paving the way for future lunar landings. After a successful launch, the Apollo 8 spacecraft entered a trans-lunar trajectory and travelled towards the Moon. On December 24, 1968, the spacecraft entered the lunar orbit and completed 10 orbits around the Moon over a period of 20 hours. During their time in the lunar orbit, the crew of the Apollo 8 conducted various experiments and observations. They captured stunning photographs of the lunar surface, including the iconic Earthrise photograph, which showed the Earth rising above the Moon's horizon. On December 25, 1968, the crew of the Apollo 8 delivered a live television broadcast from the lunar orbit, during which they read from the Book of Genesis, sharing a message of peace and goodwill to the people of Earth during the holiday season. After completing their mission objectives, the Apollo 8 spacecraft fired its engines to leave lunar orbit and return to Earth. On December 27, 1968, the spacecraft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. The Apollo 8 mission was a major milestone in human space exploration. It demonstrated the capability of humans to travel to the Moon and orbit it successfully. The mission provided valuable data and experience that contributed to the subsequent Apollo missions, including the historic Apollo 11 mission, which achieved the first manned lunar landing the following year.